saw this a year ago.
Yeah, Scoble's over it already. Yeah.
So you need a bunch of application developers. One question is, how do you incent those application developers to use it? Because it seems like the benefit, them putting data into it, benefits somebody else, not themselves. And secondly, in the case of Wikipedia, when you have a whole community participating, there's moderators that are ensuring that the data remains clean. How do you do the same thing here?
Okay, so I'll do one question at a time. There's the sort of simple reasons for using FluidDB, which is that it's convenient, it's online, it's already documented, we have the servers and so on. So if you've got a random fact that you want to store about the world, it gives you a place to put it very easily without having to do any work. But there's a more interesting answer, which is that you can make your information more valuable by storing it into a context where it's more useful. And if you care about your users and you care about your app and you care about the possibility that your application and its data will be combined with other stuff that you could never anticipate, then FluidDB is the perfect place to store it. And as to the second question, there's a very strong and good and flexible permission system inside of FluidDB. So if I'm putting, let's say, ratings onto objects and I don't want you to read them, I can change it so you don't have read access. In fact, TechCrunch, whose data is now inside of FluidDB, they can change the permissions so that Tickery can't read it. So the guy who put the data in there, he could have, in the middle of my demo, made the whole thing fail by taking away permission for my app to look at that information. So you don't have the edit wars of a wiki. And there's three differences from a wiki. One is permissions, one is the data is typed, and the third one is that you have a query language. You need those things to build apps. Who else has got the guts to ask a question?
So a challenge to a group of people who react interestingly to challenges. Anyone? Yossi?
Yeah, I'm concerned that in spite of the permissions, it has some terrifying privacy consequences, I'm afraid. I mean, it's good, but I think we have to kill you.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
And he will.
Well, I think the best answer to that question is, if that was a question, is that FluidDB has been designed from the beginning, and it's been rewritten 3 times, to be extremely simple. And we don't try to do anything complicated. If Robert Scoble has an opinion about me, that's a tag, it's got some permissions. There's basically nothing else inside of FluidDB. There's tags with values on them. There's a very simple permission system. There's not a lot that can go wrong. It's not like we're building some very complicated application like Facebook with hundreds and hundreds of different levels of permissions and so on. We're basically saying we care about applications, but we don't care about them at the architecture level. At the architecture level, it has to be extraordinarily simple. That's why I said it's so simple that it seems revolutionary.
Security and privacy are fundamental issues for anyone who builds applications. So let's assume that you have those problems solved, and that the hard part is making the application developers feel comfortable that you have them solved, even though you know you do.
I think that's an evolutionary process. You can start with data that it's not private data, you don't care about it so much particularly. The fact that I've met John Borthwick, or that I actually met you today for the first time, that's public. I don't mind if it gets lost. I don't mind if someone combines it with something else. Over time, people will come to trust the system. Today, I'm a developer as well, obviously. Someone tells me there's a new system, I don't necessarily trust it, but I can gain trust over time. If you know that it's running on Amazon, you know it's never lost any data, it's never gone down, and so on. That stuff has to evolve. If you know that we have $25 million in funding, that the trust level ramps up.
You do?
No, but I'm saying if in the future we have 25 million.
Okay.
You are located in New York.
That's correct, yep.
Ron Conway is here. Ron Conway. He's not
He's
here.
out in the hallway.
Was that a question?
He's going from startup alley table to table.
Ron Conway said 2 years ago that nothing exists outside of Silicon Valley, and here all of a sudden we see tons of companies from New York. I want to hear his view.
Yeah.
Actually, I discussed this issue before the session, and he said I was blind, and now I see the light, and I invested in 20 companies in New York.
Okay, well, that wasn't a question, but my response to that is that Fluidinfo is in New York because of the vision of John and Andy at BetaWorks.
Good.
I think actually Ron's last 5 deals have been all in New York. The last 5 in a row.
So what's going on in Silicon Valley?
Nothing.
Bad weather.
To be fair, Ron's been in town a couple of days. I mean, that's the five investments is not that many for Ron to have done in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think what Terry's doing is very powerful. I mean, it's nice to see an entrepreneur that's committed so much of, frankly, his life. I've met Terry before, and his passion is quite infectious. He is really committed to this, and we like to see that when we meet an entrepreneur that's really just dedicated themselves to these things. And I think the privacy thing, it's an important issue, but we do this all the time, right? We store our mail on Google servers, we use Amazon, so I'm less hung up on the security issue. He'll get it right.
I don't think it's security as much as it is confidence. You need to have confidence. As an application developer, you need to have confidence that whatever resource you're using, Amazon, Google, Fluidinfo, you need to have confidence that you're going to protect that data. And data is the most important part of my application, right?
Yeah,
so I can't place a bet. That's the most important part. So if I'm placing my bet with you, placing my data with you, I've
So
got
here's
to know that you're gonna be
here's
there.
another thing. I think you have an important point, and a good part of an answer to that is that we will open source FluidDB, so that people will be able to look at the code and they'll be able to develop confidence that it's that it's robust. They'll be able to. People have already written. There's a lot of external test suites where people are pinging away at the permission system, trying to see, can we get in? Is it broken in any way? I'm an open source guy. I've come from that world and I grew up in that world. I think that's very important for the establishing trust and reputation and so on.
Right, but you've got to earn it along the way. Otherwise, we'll have a bunch of apps that are just 100% vertically integrated, and you won't use things like simple geo or different APIs. So I think that everyone in the ecosystem has to earn the trust, but then deliver on the goods, and then that'll.
Yeah, and it's very easy to use FluidDB in an incremental way, because if you have metadata about anything, like Bijan Sabet, I can go to FluidDB and I can say, give me the object for Bijan Sabet, because I want to put a tag onto it saying, this is the kind of guy who wears pink shirts. And I can just do that. I can't put that information anywhere else, because no one anticipated that I might want a column in the database or whatever. So if it's just a piece of metadata, or for example, we took Esther Dyson's photos and we calculated the white balance on her images in Flickr, and we just stored the white balance into FluidDB. The images are still in Flickr, but you can now do a search where you say, show me the photos that are overexposed. That's just one bit of info, a bit of metadata, and we just stick it into FluidDB because we can. And there's an object for each one of those Flickr photos.
And on that slightly curious revelation, we're going to leave it there. That was Fluidinfo.
Thank you.